Yeah, they tell you that you should quit trying. You were too small, that you were too young. They tell you the chance is too slim, the world is too big, but you say, how come? I'm ready to light a new fire, raise a new flag, to cross a new sea. And if I'm ever the one in your way, then put your head down and run right through me. I keep settling for so much less. Don't take what's given, just demand what's next. Colossal. Open up your eyes, young one, and be watchful. Behind closed doors, try to write a new gospel. They are not God, they're not even apostles. I come with the dumb drum banging you breathless. Enemies freeze, left bent and defenseless. Straight for the chest of anybody against us. The more they resist it, the more that they tempt us. I keep settling for so much less. Don't take what's given, just demand what's next.
Test. Alright, hold on. All out of sorts. Give me 1 second. Alright, cool. Alright, we're not dropping frames. That's good. Man, it's just, this Bulls team is just, it is the weirdest Bulls team ever. I honestly just don't know what to say at this point. But good job. What a win. This is one of the weirdest wins easily of the season. And I'm all right with it personally. I think it kind of proves a point, but we're gonna really break it down why the Bulls won this one, because I think everyone expected this Bulls team to just get wrecked. I expected this Bulls team to get wrecked. I mean, I know that Denver is basically undefeated at home. I know that playing in Denver is one of the hardest places to play in the NBA. The altitude, or just playing sports in general in Denver, is ridiculously tough. I have someone in Colorado that could tell me. I know someone in Colorado that could tell me straight up, and I think we all kind of know it. But this was a game where you could definitely kind of see that the Denver Nuggets were just not taking this game seriously. They thought that they could just come out here, not play very hard basketball, just kind of be like, all right, we're just gonna just go through the motions. We have the MVP on our team. We've been winning all season, and we're gonna win this one. And that didn't happen. And it just kind of shows you that this sort of stuff can happen at any night in the NBA. We don't know what's going to happen any night in the NBA. Where the Chicago Bulls, they've looked like one of the worst teams since the All-Star break, and honestly since the trade deadline. They just beat the Western Conference top seed in their own home court, where they've lost 4 games all season. So it is what it is. And good job by the Bulls tonight. I'm going to give them a lot of credit for what they did tonight. This is a good overall win by the Bulls tonight. And we're going to really discuss why the Bulls got this win, because there's a few things that I'm not exactly, I'll say I'm not exactly thrilled with a couple of things that I saw tonight, but we're gonna talk about what was the good stuff, like the really good stuff that we need to see more on moving forward. And I'm not just saying for the rest of this season, I'm saying for the future as well. There needs to just be more of what I'm going to talk about tonight. To get this Bulls team moving in the right direction, whoever the hell is on the team. I don't truly care. But, man, what a ridiculous win. First thing I want to point out is this. This is still not good, right? This is still an issue with this Bulls team. They're still not taking enough threes. They're just not. But at the end of the day, what we're going to be talking about is what is the other analytically efficient shot that you can take if you're not going to be shooting the three ball, right? And we're not talking about free throws, okay? It's the paint points. The paint points that was the difference in this game, and we know that the Denver Nuggets, they kind of have this sort of I think they're like an all-right defensive team. I'm not saying Denver is like the worst defensive team in the world, but they also have a guy, Nikola Jokic, who really is not by no means a rim protector, right? And he's very clearly not a shot blocker, but he's not a rim protector. And unfortunately for them, the rest of their team, like, they've done pretty decent overall defensively. Like, don't get me wrong, but we also kind of see that some of these guys on the perimeter, they're just not that good perimeter defenders. And the Bulls took advantage of it tonight. Hence, then they were able to get to Jokic very easily and be able to score. So while you don't shoot that many threes, right, and Denver takes 40, right, and 15 of 40, by the way, is not a bad percentage. Stacey King said the Denver Nuggets just missed their threes tonight. That's false. That's a good percentage. The difference was this, guys. This is the difference, okay? I don't even know if I'm updated yet. Let's see this. The end result here is this. This is what's awesome to see. If you're not going to shoot threes, then you must attack the paint and score points in the paint. It is a must. If you're not going to shoot threes, for whatever reason it is, right, whether it's a coach is not telling you to shoot threes, you don't have shooters on your team, etc., then you must score heavily in the paint. You must do it, because we all know that scoring layups, dunks, just closer to the rim shots, they have a high percentage of going down, right? So you must attack the paint. This was the difference tonight. So I can live with the Bulls if they're not going to be shooting threes, but you're going to give me 66 points in the paint. Yeah, that's fine. I'll definitely, like, it works out. But now here's the thing. I'm not happy with that 3-point field goal attempt rate. I still think that's too low. But if you're not going to shoot this, right, you must get into the paint. And the Bulls did exactly that, which is really, really good to see. Bulls also won a bunch of the other stuff. The less turnovers, obviously, 9 steals. Assists were pretty even. They won the rebounding battle by 3, which is not a surprise, honestly. And then the second thing that I think is important to look at here is that the Denver Nuggets couldn't make their free throws, right? I don't know. This is a good Denver Nuggets free throw shooting team in general, right? They just missed free throws, especially in that third quarter when the Bulls were going on a run. They couldn't hit their free throws. The Bulls shot 94% from the free throw line, which is very, very good. Now, 18 free throw attempts is not ideal. You definitely want more than that. You want to get into the 25-plus range, but they knocked down their free throws, which is huge. Denver obviously did not knock down their free throws. They shot 7 to 15 from the field, which is dreadful. And honestly, if Denver just hit their free throws, that third quarter run doesn't look as big. So, as you can see, if free throws and paint points, if you're not going to shoot the 3-ball, those are the 2 areas you can make it up in. You better score in the paint heavily, and you better be taking a lot of free throws and making your free throws. This season for the Bulls, they are currently ranked 19th in points in the paint per game, okay? If you want to double check this, look here. NBA teams points in the paint per game. This is of today. This might change after today's game, but the Bulls have been here for a good amount of the season. They've also been way down at the bottom. They were bottom 5 for a good portion of the season. So it's gone up, right? But it's still way too low. As you can see here, the Memphis Grizzlies, San Antonio Spurs, Oklahoma City Thunder, they heavily score points in the paint. And Memphis isn't exactly the greatest 3-point shooting team, but they're a good team or at least a pretty overall good team offensively, because they get into the paint. They do struggle to score in the half court, I will say that, but they make up for it by scoring in the paint. So if this Bulls team is going to continue with the lack of 3-point shooting, then this has to go up. This number just has to go up. Again, this is not just about this season, it's about next season as well. The points in the paint number has to go up. It just straight up has to. And there's just no way around it, honestly. Again, if you're not going to shoot it, then you better get into the paint. So this is not ideal. I will still want to see 30-plus threes per game, but if you're not going to shoot it, get into the paint. Bulls did that tonight, 66 points in the paint. Good. That's awesome. That's awesome. Now, other thing, too. I've been saying this all season, or at least a lot more recently, I should say. The Bulls defense is just fine, right? There's nothing that we need to be talking about this Bulls defense. Everyone thinks that it's the defense that's the issue. The defense is the issue, etc., etc. this Bulls defense is totally fine, okay? So the Bulls, they came into this game ranked 7th defensively, all right? The Denver Nuggets came into this game ranked 2nd in offensive rating, okay? We're talking about the 2nd best offensive team in the NBA, the 2nd best. And the Bulls held them to 96 points tonight. They did shoot 43s, right? They didn't get to the free throw line, though, so that's very solid by the Bulls by not fouling, right? And they made the Denver Nuggets shoot 42% from the field, okay? This Bulls defense is fine. This is not the issue. It's clearly the offense, right? If you look at all their games, it's like, okay, what was the difference maker tonight? The big difference maker is clearly right here in the points in the paint, right? And then obviously the free throw line discrepancy. But other than that, it's like the defense, it wasn't like better, right? This defense has been solid for a good amount of the season, and we saw it again tonight. And as you can see, it's totally fine. The defense is totally fine. And I'm going to give a lot of credit to a lot of the perimeter defenders tonight, because we're seeing some of these shots here, right? Like, it's not the fact that it's just mid-range shots. These were heavily contested, like step back fadeaways, right? End of shot clock scenarios where guys just have to heave up a shot. That's great defense. And again, this Bulls defense has been perfectly fine all season. They just held the 2nd best offensive team to 96 points tonight. That's fantastic. You can't ask for anything more than that. And by the way, they have the MVP on their roster, right? And I would have to say they did a pretty good job on him as well. It's not perfect, obviously, because there's nothing you can do against Jokic. Like, he's going to do everything, right? He almost had a triple-double tonight. Big thing is, though, you had 5 turnovers, and he was jacking up threes instead of getting into the paint. That's good defense, right? If you can limit Jokic's paint opportunities, you're doing a good job. You have to take something away from him, and you're able to take that away from him in this game. So, overall, really solid. Now, big shout out. Patrick Williams had a phenomenal game tonight, okay? This was by far one of the best games for Patrick Williams all season, and I really appreciate him accepting this role off the bench. I think it's almost necessary for him at this point just to kind of regain some of his confidence, but also kind of figure out his shot selection. He shot 8 of 9 tonight, and if you look at his shot chart, right, a lot of it is paint, right, or at least close to the paint, okay? Let's just go ahead and look at Patrick Williams' shot chart, right? This is fantastic, right? I see 2 threes, but most of it is in the paint. If he's not comfortable shooting that 3-point shot, then Patrick Williams, you need to make sure that you shoot everything in here, right? Everything has to be in here then if you're not going to be shooting that 3-point shot. But he shot 2 threes tonight. He made 1. I would like to see that number still go up. But if you're not going to shoot it, then I don't want you shooting here. Don't shoot here. We've seen a lot of times where P. Will decides to, I'm going to take an 18-foot pull-up jumper when it's not necessary. He can just bully his way to the basket, right? And you can see here a cluster of made shots in the paint right at the rim. This is good from Patrick Williams, okay? This is how he can score more effectively with limited shots, as if he just shoots the more efficient shot, okay? And he shot 8 of 9 tonight. He got multiple offensive rebounds tonight. That's what we need to see from Patrick Williams moving forward, right? And even if he suddenly becomes the number 1 option this offseason, right, where, you know, the Bulls hit the full-out rebuild button, if he suddenly becomes that, then guess what? He needs to still do exactly what he did tonight, right? Obviously take more shots, but it's still the same mindset. Paint threes. Paint threes. Get those offensive rebounds. Bowl your way to the basket. Take advantage of smaller guys, right? That's how we do it if you're Patrick Williams, okay? That's exactly what we need to see. Bulls shot 51% from the field, which is overall pretty solid. They did have 26 assists, which to me is not the biggest thing. I'm not keeping track of that stat too much, but great game from Zach yet again. People say, well, you're just you're the bad team killer. Well, guess what? He went out and killed the best team in the West tonight. So that narrative just went away completely. 29 points on 12 of 18 shooting. Whew, that is fantastic from Zach LaVine. And overall solid from Nikola Vucevic. I'm not exactly thrilled again with his shot chart. His shot chart still looks kind of to me. As you can see here, this right here is not what I want to see, right? I don't want to see this. But as you can see, most of his shots that he made come in the paint and come from the 3-point line. So I would like to see him just focus on those 2 areas. But still, overall pretty solid. He did miss 1 right here. That was a good pass by Zach. He just missed it at the end of the game. But so he should have 27. But either way, just overall pretty solid game from Vooch. Better overall shot selection. Still too many mid-range though. So yeah. But those are the 3 guys, in my opinion, who got this win tonight. this was a overall solid win, and I can finally say something where I'm like, the offense did something correctly, right? Which is that they scored a bunch of points in the paint, right? I haven't been able to say that all season, really. There's been a lot of the Bulls took too many mid-range shots, the Bulls posted up too much, right? That wasn't happening tonight. It was relatively a lot of just, we're going to get into the paint, right? This is good. This is really, really solid from this Bulls team. Again, still a lot of mid-range shots. This is not ideal, right? But if you're not going to shoot the three, then it's all paint. You have to get to the paint then. You have to make it up in the paint. Don't make it up in the mid-range. It's just not going to work. Well, we played the game we always play, less threes, but we took care of the ball and didn't get our rebound to oblivion. That's the key to take tonight. We shot less minis and more shots in the paint. Yeah. Like I said, mid-range shots, it's always going to happen in today's game. It's like, I'm not saying mid-range is dead. If a guy like DeMar DeRozan is going to shoot mid-range, we see guys like Jokic, he's always taking mid-range shots, right? There is always a time and place for mid-range jumpers, right? But the biggest thing is that the Bulls, they don't shoot threes. Now, one team that I kind of look at, like how this Bulls team kind of is kind of playing right now. Let's go look at the Lakers bubble championship year. What was that? 2021. Was it 2021? I'm blanking, honestly. Okay, Lakers championship. It's 2020. Okay. So one of the things that I always find very interesting is the Lakers. They were a team that they didn't really shoot threes, right? This was a season for the Lakers that they very much were like, we're not going to be shooting the three ball. Okay. If you look at 3-point attempts per game, they're down here, right? And again, this is the team that went on to win the championship. And again, bubble championship, whatever you want to call it. But you see here, like, they're down here. They don't shoot threes, okay? And everyone's kind of wondering, like, okay, if they don't shoot threes, it's very much against the grain. Then how do they score, okay? And if you're wondering how they scored, right, it's very obvious, okay? It's right here. This is how they scored. It's all in the paint. So if you're this Bulls team, right, the fact that if you're not a top team in point paints per game, you don't take three-point attempts, and you don't take a lot of free throw attempts. All three of those things cannot happen if you're gonna have a solid offense in today's era, right? At least one of those things has to be in the top level for you to at least be competent on offense and still have the discrepancies in those other areas, right? The Lakers this season, they were dominating the paint. They also got to the free throw line a ton. They just didn't shoot threes, right? That's fine. It works. It's just that you have to be dominating in these areas. And like I said, this Bulls team this season, they've been bottom of the list in terms of point paints per game. Obviously, we know they're lacking 3-point attempts per game, and then obviously they don't shoot a lot of free throws. So all three of those things just can't be the case. Hence why this Bulls team is ranked 24th offensively this season. So it just kind of shows you that how backwards this Bulls offense is. But tonight, different story, right? Tonight was different. You scored 66 points in the paint. You completely dominated the paint compared to the Denver Nuggets. You did everything right. That's how it should work if this is how it's going to happen, right? Who do you think led us to the win besides the points in the paint? Oh, it's easily for me. It's Zach LaVine in that third quarter was huge. And then it was Patrick Williams all the entire game when he was out there. Patrick Williams played 30 minutes tonight, and deservingly so. Like, those two guys were like the main guys in my opinion, and then Vucevic also added on pretty well. I don't think DeMar DeRozan really had that good of a game. I think he really struggled. And also DeRozan had some very bad defensive lapses. But it was these three guys that really did a good job tonight, and I think they deserve most of the credit. Yeah, he's too big and too athletic to not keep forcing his way to the paint as much as he did tonight. Oh yeah, Fox. I tweeted out after this game. It pains me to see that Patrick Williams is this strong, this big, this athletic, right? Has this much skill and potential, and he decides I'm gonna settle for a mid-range shot a good amount of the time, right? The dude is a 6'7", already NBA built body that has decent ball handling skills already, but is already very strong. He can finish strong at the rim, and he's shooting 41% from 3-point range this season, right? you're an elite shooter. You're a very strong and athletic dude, and yet we see you take mid-range. I understand that's his comfort zone, but that just can't be the case. It just can't. You have to. It has to get broken out, just taken out of him to think that, okay, first thing is I'm gonna go to the mid-range, right? That needs to go away from him. I'm not saying he can't shoot mid-range shots. That's not what I'm saying. But instead of him thinking mid-range first, he needs to think, all right, let me see if I can attack the paint first, right? And if it's not there, then I can go ahead and shoot that mid-range shot, right? If the defense is going to take away your paint and 3-point looks, then yeah, take that mid-range. I'm for it all day. But that's not what's happening right now. Patrick Williams is being given the 3-point shot. He's been hesitant to take it. He's been given a lot of times to drive, and he's hesitant to go all the way to the rim, right? Both things, bad. Tonight, that wasn't the case, right? Tonight, it was bully basketball by him, getting to the basket, getting offensive rebounds, and when he had the open 3-point look, he shot it. That's how it's supposed to work with Patrick Williams. It just has to, with Patrick Williams and his future. I have not watched the Bulls game and been that energetic about it in a while. Just feel like we passed up too many open threes. Oh, for sure, Patrick. We still passed up open threes. We 100% still passed up open threes tonight. I'm not saying that we didn't, but like I said, if you're not going to shoot the threes, right, then it has to come here. It has to come in the paint. It just straight up has to. So, look, man, I'm not thrilled. Like, it still 24 3-point attempts. That's still too low. But if you're gonna make it up for me, then I can sit here and not be too upset about it, right? It's still, again, I still want to see better shot selection overall. But if you're gonna make up for it in the paint, all right, I can live with it. Hence why the Bulls scored 117 points tonight, right? And it wasn't like we had 51% from the field, but it wasn't like the Pacers game where we shot like 60% from the field and we still lost the game, right? And the reason why we lost that game is because mid-range shots were everywhere that game, and it ruined us. Toronto Terror King, good to see you. Magula, good to see you. What's up? Just came back from running a track meet and was watching the game in between. Wow. Hope your track meet went well, Magugula. But yeah, appreciate you tuning in, and glad you were able to catch the game. Obviously, it's a big game and a big win, so glad you could catch this one. One of the few wins this season. Not giving the Nuggets 15 to 20 more possession/shots than our own shouldn't be understated. That's the reason why we lost most of our recent games. Check the most recent close games with the Pacers. Oh no, I totally agree. Like the defensive rebounding in that Pacers game, the Raptors game, like I'm aware that was a big issue, but I'm more focused on like, because here's the thing, guys. Like I'm not that like concerned about that specifically because this Bulls team has been one of the best defensive rebounding teams all season. Defensive rebounding percentage is in the top 3, and then overall defensive rebounding in terms of totals is right here, right? They do a overall pretty decent job. Now, yes, that did happen in those 2 games for sure. And like I talked about it, changing the starting lineup to go small, and you took out Patrick Williams out of the starting lineup. I do think that had an effect, but that's not a trend all season, right? That hasn't been an issue all season. But I'm aware of it, and they definitely can't let that happen in the future, but that's been something that's been taken care of all season. But yeah, for sure, it is a huge point by you, Box, that we didn't give Denver Nuggets those extra shots. Yeah, that's definitely a good point. Track team in our meet went very well. Well, awesome for you, Magugula. Glad to hear it. Turnovers also is an issue. We are 10th and we are like 22nd in rebounding total. So rebounding total is always interesting to talk about because as you can see right here, right, the Bulls in terms of total defensive rebounds, they're 7th. Okay, rebounding total, we're all the way down here, right, because we don't offensive rebound. Okay, and it's up to you if you want to argue like if that's important, but let's just be clear, the total rebounding number is like, yeah, we're down here, but let's not just ignore that the Bulls are a top 10 defensive rebounding team in the league, right? That just can't be ignored. So defensive rebounding for this Bulls team has been perfectly fine all season. This has not been an issue. But if you want to talk about lack of offensive rebounds is an issue, that's definitely something you can talk about. I just think that this Bulls team plays so damn small that it's not a shocker to see that this Bulls team is an offensive rebound, right? I don't think that's shocking at all when you basically have 4 guards out there at all times. So I'm not personally like looking at that as like a big issue. Honestly, you can argue about it, but to me, it's not that big of an issue. In the end, I mean, we see that the Philadelphia 76ers are tied with us in offensive rebounding, right? So it's not that big of an issue in my opinion, but the overall rebounding was an issue in the Raptors and Pacers game, but it was not an issue tonight. So credit the Bulls tonight. They did a good job against a bigger team. Turnovers is also an issue. So turnovers in general hasn't really been that big of an issue for this Bulls team, right? They're now 11th, but they were top 10 for a good amount of the season. So to me, the turnovers also haven't really been an issue. They were an issue again in some games, but that's just like I want to talk about more about trends throughout the season than talk about, hey, we had this 3-game spurt where we turned the ball over a ton of times. Like, yeah, that we can talk about that for sure. And I brought it up in that Phoenix game as well, but that hasn't been an issue all season. Like, that hasn't been something that we've consistently seen all season. So I'm not here to be like, this is a huge issue that we need to like really go over. How's our upcoming schedule look? Is it favoring us going down the stretch? Right now, Patrick, no. Like right now with how things are, so I think our schedule overall is pretty simple. Like, it's not awful. I'll bring it up here, but our chances of making the playoffs right now are like in the toilet. It's like I think we have like a 13% chance of making the playoffs right now, and we have like a 20% chance of making the play-in. It's like it's dead, right? So to me, right now, I'm just assuming that this Bulls team is not making the playoffs, whether they make the play-in or not. I'm just saying that they're not going to make it. But even though if these games are somehow meaningless, I'm still going to be here, right? I'm still going to be talking about this team. But right now, the schedule might be all right. The issue is that this Bulls team's playoff chances are just so incredibly low because of the other teams' records, right? But also the tiebreakers situation that's going on. Because, for example, if we tied with the Toronto Raptors, they won the season series. They get the tiebreaker. When it comes to Washington, I think we have the tiebreaker against Washington because we have a better record against our own against the conference. Okay, but if we tie with Indiana, for example, Indiana took that tiebreaker, and I believe that comes down to divisional games, maybe. So I don't know, or no, maybe not. I don't even know. But basically, Indiana, the Bulls lost to Indiana was huge because that was a necessary game to win to raise your playoff chances, and that dropped the Bulls' playoff chances significantly. It looks like Indiana is still struggling though, so I don't know, but it's still doable. I'm not saying it's not doable. Like, the Bulls can jump Washington soon. It's just that the playoff chances of then having to play against the Raptors, and then if you win against the Raptors, play the Heat or Hawks is very, very slim, and you don't have home court advantage, right? The games we lose, especially the close ones, is because we're getting dogged in offensive rebounds. We just turn the ball over and giving them easy fast breaks, like stupid turnovers, turn it to easy buckets. So I think in most recent games that's definitely been an issue, Box. But I think the biggest issue when it comes to the close games is that the Bulls, they end up losing the game by like 4 points, right? And it's because the opposing team made 4 more 3-point shots than them, right? I think that's the more big issue with this Bulls team is the offense is that you see them just settle for too many mid-range attempts, and it ends up that we're just relying on 2-point inefficient shots, and we lose the close game because that's what we relied on all game. And in the end, the math adds up, and I've been saying that all season. So to me, I think the biggest issue why we lose those close games is because of the offense. But for sure, what you mentioned has also been an issue, where we give up the offensive rebound or we turn it over so many times. Like recent games, for sure. But yeah, most games we had big leads. It's like we start losing interest. We turn our engines off. We start getting complacent. Absolutely no reason, which starts getting worse in the fourth quarter. It's coaching issues, player issue, or a combination of both. So let me talk about this. The reason why the Bulls blow leads, okay, is because of the offense, right? I've talked about this on my channel. I've brought this up on my own channel of why the Bulls blow those big leads. Okay, it's really, at the end of the day, it's not rocket science, right? The Bulls blow leads because of their inefficient offense. That's honestly it, right? I legit made a video why the Chicago Bulls blow so many leads. If you just kind of think about it, right? What happens when the Bulls blow a lead is that the opposing team starts hitting threes, okay? That's what typically happens, right? And so the Bulls, they decide, hey, we're going to come on down the other side of the court and we're going to shoot a mid-range too. Let's say you make it. Okay, you still just lost a point. Then the opposing team comes down again, and then they shoot another three, they drain it. And then the Bulls come on down and they shoot another two. You've lost 2 points, right? That's on, rotating, that's on consecutive possessions of scoring. Right? That's why the Bulls blow leads, is because the opposing team, they start hitting their 3-point shots. The Bulls, right, what happens a lot is when they get the lead, their inefficient shots, like the mid-range, the post-up, etc., those shots are going in, right? They go in at a pretty high percentage. The problem is this. The problem is you then see those shots eventually start to miss, right? And because you didn't take more efficient shots in the first place, then the lead starts to dwindle, right? It then starts to get smaller and smaller because now the shots that you were making that were initially inefficient, they're suddenly not going in now, right? And that's not a shocker. So anytime then you do make a shot, it's not that effective. You made 2. It just isn't that effective. So that's the reason why the Bulls blow leads, okay? The main reason why the Bulls blow leads is because of their horrible offense that they continue to rely on. The other thing is this. Whenever they start relying on that sort of thing, right, where they start relying on the mid-range, the DeRozan isolation, etc., that's when you start to see them really start to kind of press on themselves, where they try to then force it to the basket, or they'll jack up a 3, right? Or, and most of the times, they turn it over, right? So yeah, the turnovers are definitely a part of why the Bulls blow leads, but the main reason why the Bulls blow leads is because of their offense, right? The Bulls' defense, in my opinion, isn't the issue. It's suddenly that the opposing team just starts knocking down shots, right? That, they're probably contested still, but it's a 3, right? The opposing team starts hitting those threes that they weren't making in the first half. Hence, then the Bulls, when they try to then score, it's not as effective, and then every 3-point shot the opposing team makes, it feels like a gun punch because we don't have a response to that can even it out, and that lead slowly goes down. So I'm aware of the Bulls blowing leads all season. It's been very noted, but I'm telling you the reason why they mostly blow leads, right? But for sure, other little things, turnovers, not rebounding. That's not just a Bulls thing, right? That's an every team thing. If you don't rebound, if you turn the ball over and you have a lead, you're going to lose the lead. That's not specifically to the Bulls. See the whole team scheme changing. We got a nice offense going for two and a half quarters since we suddenly shifted to the dumb contested middies for absolutely no reason. So, like I said, to me the offense isn't different. Okay. So let's just say the Bulls, they were in the lead in the first half. So the first 2 quarters, they scored 60 points. They only took 12 threes though in that first half. The thing is though is that they're shooting 58% from the field. When that number suddenly shifts to in the second half where you start shooting 42% from the field, that's the reason why the Bulls blow the lead. You're still taking the same shots. The offensive scheme is still the same. It's just that you're not hitting those shots now. And hence, because it's an inefficient shot, the shots that you made in the first half don't matter anymore because it wasn't either threes or you didn't make enough of those shots that you had opportunities with, right? So that's the reason why it's like I don't think the offensive scheme necessarily changes in that fourth or in late game. Like isolation, if you want to talk about the crunch time. Yeah, we can talk about crunch time. The game completely changes, but to me, the entire game changes in crunch time. I don't think it's like every single team in crunch time. It's slower. The defense locks in. It's normally in isolation. That's how it goes in today's NBA. that's not an abnormality. So I just think that the reason why it's so annoying to watch the Bulls in isolation in crunch time is because they don't make 3-point shots in crunch time, right? Every single shot that they make in crunch time is a 2. It's typically a mid-range shot. Hence then, it's like, okay, we made a shot, but it's not that effective because we see guys in crunch time on the opposing team, they're knocking down threes. So it's not as effective anymore. That's the reason why it's like crunch time. It's always one of the hardest to watch the Bulls because you know that it's just going to be mid-range galore and it's just not as effective. I'd like to see Dale and Terry get more minutes here and then the season if playoffs out of reach. I agree, but we're not going to see it. We know we're not going to see it. Not a player with ball movement, hero ball time. So again, Box, I don't think the offense really changes from the first minute till the minute 43. To me, the offense in the first 43 minutes is the same. If you want to talk about crunch time, like that's a different story. But I know what you're talking about, where it's like there are games where the Bulls are like they're starting to suddenly the post team's starting to come back and they really start to slow down. But to me, again, like whether you think the game is really slowing down or the Bulls are just like they're in panic mode, I just think that it's more so that the offensive scheme is still the same. Sure, it might be in DeRozan's hands. Sure, it might be in Zach's hands, and it looks like they're just trying to do everything. But it's not like it's a straight-up isolation, let them just go one-on-one. It's a pick-and-roll that is looking for a mid-range shot. And it drives me insane when I see that sort of stuff. Especially from DeRozan. So, to me, the offensive scheme doesn't change. It's still the same emphasis, the same stupidity of mid-range post-up. But sure, I can agree that sometimes the team does slow down, but I don't necessarily think that the hero ball really comes out until like crunch time when it's really in DeRozan and Levine's hands. And we see a much different offensive sets, right, where we see a little pin down for DeRozan to come up off of. He catches at the wing, and then Zach comes off the flare from the Vucevic screen, and then that's their fourth quarter set, right? That's a different scheme for sure. But quarters 1 through 43 to me is the same scheme. I don't think it changes that much. Let's see here. We need more of this style of play with better defense and more shooters, adding shooters to this roster, adding shooters to this roster, or sharp shooter per se. Oh, I mean, yeah, I think we kind of all said it all season. Like, this Bulls team needs shooting, but as I've said, just because you're a bad team, like just because you don't think yet you have the shooters on this team, right, or good enough shooters on this team, does not mean that you should just suddenly not be shooting 3-point shots, right? The Bulls, in terms of the 3-point attempts in the season, right? Let's just look at this. So the Golden State Warriors right now, they're leading with 43 3-point attempts per game, okay? Look, the Bulls are down here at 28 and a half 3-point attempts per game. This is lower than the Pelicans, the Hawks, the Magic, etc., okay? Now, one thing to keep in mind is this. The Detroit Pistons, or sorry, not that. The Charlotte Hornets, they shoot 32% from 3-point range, okay? They're not a good 3-point shooting team. They're down here, okay? But they shoot more 3-point attempts than the Bulls. Like, yeah, it's 5 more, but they still shoot more, which is the reason why I'm upset, because it's like, yeah, you may not have the best 3-point shooters on this team, but you guys still got to shoot it, because instead we're seeing the 3-point shots be replaced with mid-range shots. So instead of shooting mid-range, right, then the Bulls need to attack the paint, which, as I've said all season, the Bulls this season, in terms of paint points, they're down here. So if you're going to be turning down threes, it better be for paint points or free throws. But instead, we're shooting mid-range. And that's the reason why this Bulls team looks so bad. And it's like, that's the reason why shooting looks so necessary, is because we lack guys who can penetrate the paint. And when you lack that, then it's like, okay, we must rely on our shooting then. Well, that's not the case, because we don't have shooting. It's just very weird. Now, keep in mind this. See, this is the thing that I think this is where I'm always like kind of looking at things when it comes to other teams, right? The Boston Celtics, like, they don't really have a point guard, and they also don't attack, like, they don't get into the paint a lot. But you know what the Boston Celtics do a lot of is shoot the 3 ball, right? They shoot 42 threes per game. So they're not getting into the paint, but they shoot 42 threes. So that's how they make up for it. The Milwaukee Bucks, same thing, right? The Bucks are down here. Sorry, this is the Bucks. Whoops. Bucks are down here. They're not. They don't get into the paint, and they have Giannis, right? But if you're not gonna get into the paint, because let's be honest, Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton, they don't really get into the paint. You know what they do though? They shoot the 3-ball. They shoot 43s per game. That's how it's supposed to work, right? The Bulls are just on the wrong ends of both of those categories, and it's driving me insane to watch it. So good thing tonight was that you scored 66 points in the paint. That's different. This is good. I want to see this more if you're not going to be shooting that 3-point shot. But yeah. The flow definitely changes. Check how Zach's and Amar's shots are coming more naturally, like they don't force them in the first half. Sometimes even through the third quarter when it feels forced. I don't know, man. I just disagree. I think that we see, like, in my opinion, we see Zach and DeMar, they have to force shots in every single quarter because this Bulls offense doesn't generate anything, right? I think this Bulls offense is so bad that there's nothing being generated a good amount of possessions, and they just miraculously, Zach will take a step back, or Zach will just kind of make something out of nothing, right? Or DeMar will go to his spot in the mid-range and just kind of shoot it, right? I understand what you're saying, Box, but if you're going to tell me that this Bulls team doesn't pass the ball, you're also wrong there. NBA teams passes per game. In terms of passes, right, this Bulls team is one of the top teams in the league. Okay, passes made, right? We're up here. Like, at the end of the day, this Bulls team is they're passing the ball. So they're not a team like the Lakers who don't pass the ball. Okay, I'm aware that a lot of this does happen in the first half. I'm not saying that like what you're saying is like completely wrong, but to me, like this Bulls team, it's not like one half is just straight up good flow of the offense, which by the way, to me, the offense is never good. I think the flow of the offense is always bad. I don't really think it's ever looking nice. And then the second half is just straight up isolation ball. Nothing happens. To me, I think the offense in general is having issues. They pass the ball a ton, but it generates nothing, right? And we then see DeRozan and Levine kind of make something out of nothing. Now, here's the thing, though. It's easier to do that in the first half, right? It's easier for Zach and DeMar to kind of create those shots out of nothing in the first half because the defense isn't as locked in. Second half, the defense locks in, right? And then that's when it becomes harder for them to kind of get those isolation shots to kind of go through. So, like, I understand what you're saying, Box, but the numbers don't exactly 100% support your claim. The eye test, I think, is what you're kind of going off of more. And if I'm going to bring up another stat, right? The isolations per game it's just the Bulls don't isolate, right? DeMar DeRozan isolates 15% of the time. That's less than Kyrie Irving. That's less than Jason Tatum. That's less than Anthony Edwards. That's less than Damian Lillard. Like, he doesn't isolate. He isolates less than Spencer Dinwiddie, for God's sake. Zach isolates 12% of the time. That's less than Giannis. That's less than DeJounte Murray. That's less than Trae Young. That's less than Jalen Brunson. Like, these guys don't isolate. The numbers don't say that. So maybe the ball's in their hands a lot, but it's really not an isolate, right? They don't typically isolate. It's typically that the offense just, to me, they're in a drought, and that's the reason why it looks bad, right? And I honestly think the offense looks very similar, even in these like kind of rough scenarios where everything's going wrong for the Bulls team, and it's like, okay, we're in panic mode. Like, it looks very similar in my opinion, but the problem is that you're resorting to mid-range stupid attempts, and you're not making it, right? It's crazy seeing. I remember when the Bulls played in Denver last year when we had Lonzo. We had Lonzo. It sounded like the UC. Oh, I mean, the Bulls fans showed up this year, and we sucked this year. But yeah, it was absolutely just insane in Denver last year when the Bulls were playing well. But yeah, it was cool to see another game where the Bulls show out in Denver. Crazy to see LaMelo, who isn't a better shooter, taking 10 threes a game, and we have freaking Zach only taking 7 per game. For the name of God, Kelly Oubre is taking 7 threes per game. Yeah. Like I said, Zach needs to shoot more than 7, and we know that he's done it before. He averaged 8 in his first All-Star season. I just think that he's being legit pigeonholed in this offense where he's not allowed to shoot those threes, right? Like, every time I see Zach kind of just, like, launch a three, like, I'm always just like, good. That's great. Keep doing that more. Everyone's going to say, bad shot. Don't shoot it. But to me, I'm like, no, he needs to shoot more of that. And I want to see that. You understand, for example, those 292 passes, we could have 200 in the first and first through third, then drop to 90. Not saying we don't pass in general. We are trying to slow the game down. Your math doesn't check out there, by the way. If we have 200 passes in the first through third and then we pass 90 times in the fourth, that's wrong. That means that we pass a lot more in the fourth. But I understand what you're saying. I agree. In the fourth quarter, all teams pass less in the fourth quarter, for sure. I 100% agree with that. But again, though, that's the issue. It's like, that's not abnormal, right? I honestly think that if we resort to like more motion in the offense in that fourth quarter, it's going to resort to more bad things because the defense seriously locks in, and we know that guys on this team, when they have the ball, like I'm talking about the role players, when they have the ball in like the crunch time, they're scared to shoot. They're scared to do anything, right? That's the reason why it's on DeMar and Zach a lot, just to kind of do everything, because they're the only guys that really seem comfortable out there. And honestly, I'm willing to live and die by it, except for the fact that it's just DeMar just shoots so many mid-range, and I'm like, oh my god. Again, though, if there is ever a time to shoot the mid-range, it is in that fourth quarter, right? Like the fourth quarter, if there is ever a time when the game slows down, it's crunch time, that's when the mid-range, in my opinion, is the most effective, and that's fine. It's like, that seems to be the only thing. He just doesn't get to the free throw line, and it's like, I don't know, man. It's overall rough. Have we got the shot chart yet? Well, I did, but we're going to talk about it in a little bit here again. We isolate, we just do it the way the stats recorded. Player dribbling the ball, just trying to go to his spot isn't isolation per se. It's just stupid if we don't truly isolate him to go 1v1. Here's what I think. I think the Bulls, they don't actually isolate a lot. I think they actually should isolate more, by the way. I think that DeMar and Zach, they're too good one-on-one to not isolate them. But instead, what you see a lot of more is the pick and roll, right? When the game slows down and we don't pass it as much, we instead see the pick and roll happen, right? And yeah, that results in less passing for sure. But it's still a pick and roll, right? And honestly, I don't know, like, that's kind of what I want, honestly. Like, if you're not going to isolate, I would rather see the pick and roll than see the post up. But that's when you kind of see, like, you know, the opposing team's defense, they start to double Zach, they start to double DeMar, and they're doubling off the pick and roll, right? And that to me is why I'm like, okay, I don't want to run the pick and roll in those scenarios because I don't want Zach or DeMar doubled. I don't. I want them to get the one-on-one matchup in those scenarios because I can trust on them to score the ball. If they double in an isolation, it is much harder to recover off that double because that initial double has to travel a lot farther to get to the double team, right? If you run the pick and roll, that's bringing another guy to the ball, right? Hence, they can double team easily, and then they can recover much easier. And like I said in today's game, just like in the post-up, guys are able to move around much easier and quicker than ever in today's era. They're much more lengthier, much more agile, right? And they also just can cover a lot more ground with every step. So that's the reason why it's like, if you run the pick and roll and then the ball only gets doubled and you throw it to the roll man, it's a 3v4, but the defense has time to recover, which is the reason why it's like the Bulls need to do a better job instead of running that pick and roll and bringing the double team to those guys. I feel like isolation is not a bad idea. And if the double does come in isolation, it's much harder to recover off that double team. But if you're going to run the pick and roll, right, I would recommend running it with Patrick Williams or someone else setting the screen because I want Vucevic to be the guy receiving on the other end and not the guy distributing. But instead we see it's Vucevic sets the screen, he gets to the ball, he'll then pass it to somebody, but then they're hesitant to shoot. I know Vucevic's not afraid in that fourth quarter, so instead of him setting the screen, right, how about Patrick Williams or Alex Caruso or whoever sets the screen, and then they can feed Vooch that ball in that 3v4 scenario, and then he can go ahead and score. That's what I would like to see instead. But, Billy Donovan's going to run his offense the way it is. I think Vooch is a terrible roller. He is. According to the numbers, Vucevic is one of the worst rollers in terms of like NBA starters. He's one of the worst. Let's see, pick and roll man. I think, let's see here. Vooch right here is 33.9%. So the 34th percentile. Yeah, he's one of the worst. He tends to fade a lot more, and I just don't understand why. He's too good to fade. He needs to roll hard. Let's see. Bulls were 5-9 on straight on threes in the second half. They did shoot the three a lot better in the second half. Plus, everyone just goes under when DeMar sets a pick and roll near the 3-point line since they aren't afraid of him shooting it. Then they have time to reset. We end up with a contested jumper. Yep, that's what happens, right? Which is kind of the reason why I'm like, okay, if we're gonna use the pick and roll, that has to be with Zach. I would isolate DeMar. I honestly would, because if they're gonna double team DeMar, then it's a harder recovery. But if they don't double team DeMar, then that's an isolation. That's a 1v1. I'm willing to take it if that's DeMar DeRozan. Okay. Now here's the thing, though. I think Zach LaVine has played a lot better recently. I think he's played fantastic, and he's had a fantastic run of games here. And again, a lot of the headlines recently. I mean, even one of Zach's supporters in the news, Rob Schaefer, he wrote an article for NBA.com saying how Zach's been on a tear, but it's not leading to wins, right? Well, Zach just had another fantastic performance, and it led to a win. It led to a convincing win, and against the best team in the West. So, like, I feel like this sort of run that Zach's on, it's not something just to kind of look over, right? And so isolating him also, in my opinion, is not the worst idea in the world. I honestly think that, like, Zach, in terms of isolations, like, he's averaging a point per isolation. Like, that's more than Giannis, that's more than Trae Young, that's more than DeJounte Murray. Like, that's very respectable. The thing is, though, is that he just doesn't isolate, right? He's in the 70th percentile in terms of isolation attempts, in terms of just straight up isolation, right? That's very solid. Now, DeMar DeRozan's obviously better. He's in the 90th percentile in terms of isolation. So if there's anybody, if you're going to choose between the two, it's probably DeMar. But Zach's been on a tear. So I don't know. Either way, I don't think it's a bad idea. I just think that in the end, you got to see this Bulls team work better around the double teams, because we're not seeing it, right, from this Bulls team. Vooch fades just to miss the wide open jumpers, 7 out of 10. It is bad. I will say that. When he just kind of fades that, especially the mid-range, the 18-footers, I'm like, oh, bro, just shoot the three. But, it is what it is. I mean, Dame said it. When I set the pick and roll, if the defender goes under, I instantly shoot yeah. If he doesn't, I'm beating him off the dribble. It's a simple game, and DeMar refuses to get into the program. Oh, I mean, yeah, for sure. I mean, he's averaged career less threes than MJ, 1.5 versus 1.7. The GOAT literally played halfway from the 80s to the 90s. Yeah, it's definitely a problem for DeMar, right? He can't continue this, honestly, in my opinion, because I think we're kind of I don't want to say that DeMar's, like, his athleticism and his overall play is slowing down. It's just that the injury to his hamstring that he had, or his quad, and then ever since he returned from that, he just has not looked the same. His jumping ability just does not look the same. We have to remind ourselves he's age 34, right? This is the time where I'm concerned about DeMar, because if he is solely going to rely on his mid-range game moving forward, I'm concerned. Like, yeah, he can still be effective, but it just... If he's not going to be able to either create for his teammates effectively or get to the paint or free throw line more effectively, I'm concerned, right? I'm seriously concerned, and it's not a shocker in my opinion that I don't think he has much trade value right now. So, yeah. Brook freaking Lopez was literally shooting 0.1 threes per game for 7 seasons, and he became a sharpshooter because he understood where the freaking game was moving towards. DeMar just refuses to shoot. Yeah, he does refuse. And here's the thing. Like, look, I'm not saying if I was telling DeMar DeRozan, look, you have to adjust. My first thing wouldn't be I need you to shoot threes. Like, that would not be my first thing that I would tell him. My first thing I would tell him is I need you to attack the paint more, because if you're not going to be comfortable shooting from out there, which the numbers really say he isn't, right? then I need you to attack the paint first. And he just doesn't attack the paint at a level where it's effective enough. And then after that, it would be get to the free throw line. Now, DeMar DeRozan, for a lot of the seasons, he's been very effective at getting to the free throw line. So he's done that, right? But my initial instinct would be get to the paint, right? And then we can work on the three ball. But right now, with the way that he looks, right? With the way how he's moving, the lack of jumping ability, right? That, to me, is starting to tell me that Father Time's starting to catch up. Hence, then, he needs to go start working on that three-point shot because I'm worried about his career moving forward. If he wants to get paid the big bucks still, he needs to start working on that three-point shot, right? He just straight up has to. It's the reality, right? But if he's willing to accept a lesser role, then he can definitely stay in the league and still be a mid-range master and free-throw master. Like, that can definitely be a role for him. It's much less money. It's a much lesser role. You're not a main option on the offense. You're just kind of like a scoring microwave type dude out there, right? Not really much of else, right? DeMar has to be shooting threes more to be effective. I agree. But I'm not saying he should be doing that at 33. Now it's too late. He refused to expand his game. He should do that when he was in his prime. Now it's like yelling into the void. I don't know about that. I mean, Brook Lopez, like when Brook Lopez started to change his game, it wasn't like he was young, right? Sure, he's probably more in his prime, but I think that DeMar has time to kind of shoot more threes. Now it is too late for him. It is too late for him in terms of like really raising his 3-point overall field goal attempts, right? That is way too late. Like he's never going to average 6 threes attempted per game in a season, right? That's never going to happen. But he can average 4, right? He can definitely do that. He can for sure do that. And I'm trying to remember, like he had that one season in Toronto that was like he started to shoot a lot more from 3. Yeah, it was this season where he averaged 3.6. Like, if anything, I'll take this from you. Sure, I might not be the greatest, but I'll take it, right? I need to see closer to that number, right? 27, 20, not 34. Yeah, I agree, but I think he could still increase that number to like 4. I'm not saying he can increase it to 6, but he's taken 3.6 before. He can increase it to 4 for sure, but I don't think he's gonna get more than that. And here's the thing, guys. I mean, like, I always kind of look at a guy like Vince Carter, right? Vince Carter used to be that high flyer, right? The reason why Vince Carter stayed in the league, even though that his athleticism just, fell off when he was in his 40s, because he can shoot that 3 ball, right? It's just, I just look at this with DeMar. Like, DeMar had good athleticism in his younger years, right? He kind of relied on his athleticism to get him his points a lot. Like, that's kind of what it was with him. And then his prime years, maybe it's a little bit of drop off, but it's still a lot of that. You're starting to see it really go now, right? And I'm like, how are you going to survive? That's like my big thing. It's like, how are you going to survive? And move forward in your career. That's my big question mark with them. And if you're going to continue to be this top tier scorer in the league next season and the year after that, like I'm questioning you, like, how are you gonna do that again? I just don't know. If your athleticism is seriously starting to go down, I question it. You see him being behind the 3-point line and taking a step and shooting it. I'm like, really, bro? You really had to trade an open 3 to take an extra 2 steps for a contested long 2? Yeah, he does that a lot, and I don't understand why. I honestly think it's incidental. I really do. But yeah, I'm not exactly too sure why he does that. I just think it's incidental. All right, Ryan, you're still in the chat here. I know, I could see you. You want to talk about the shot chart? So, still, in my opinion, in this game, the Bulls still took too many mid-range. I'm not happy. Like look at all these misses. Like this is disgusting in my opinion. But here's to me the kicker, right? The Bulls, they only shot 24 threes tonight. Oh, whoops, sorry. As you can see, the Bulls only shot 24 threes tonight. That's still too low in my opinion, but I brought up earlier, if you're going to not shoot the 3 ball, you have to attack the paint. You just straight up have to get into the paint, because that's the other efficient shot out there. Bulls had 66 points in the paint tonight. So if you're not going to shoot the 3, you better be dominating the paint. And as you can see here, the Bulls, they did that tonight, hence the reason why they won this game. Also, their defense, yet again, looks fantastic. This is the second best offensive team rating-wise in the NBA, and we held them to 96 points tonight. That's great. Sorry, I dropped something. So I just think moving forward with this Bulls team, it's like, if you're not going to shoot the 3 ball, you better be getting to the paint. And we know that this Bulls team all season, they don't get into the paint. They're 19th in terms of points in the paint per game. That's too low, right? So it has to be, if you're not going to, like, if you look at these teams, right? The teams that don't get into the paint a lot, that are good teams, Milwaukee, right? 40, they're down here at 26. Boston, like, yeah, they don't score a lot of points in the paint, but you know what they do a lot of? They shoot the 3 ball, right? That's what they do. Milwaukee, 40. Boston, 42. Like, that's what they do, right? So if you're the Bulls, it's like you can't be at the bottom of both ends of the spectrum. The Bulls are at the bottom in terms of 3-point attempts per game, and then they're basically in the bottom third in terms of points in the paint per game. That just can't happen. It just straight up can't. It is legit not going to work out for you. It bothers me seeing this sort of stuff here from this Bulls team. Again, this Bulls defense has been fantastic. The Bulls defense is fine. The Bulls, again, if you want to look at the Denver offensive rating, they're second. They're right here. Bulls, in terms of defensive rating, they're now 6th after tonight. They were 7th coming into this game. It's good. The Bulls defense is good. It's just the offense, man. It is just so backwards. So shot chart wise, still too many mid range, but you see here, Ryan, this is huge. I love this right here. Look at how many shots they got right at the rim. So if you're gonna score points in the paint, right here, obviously at the rim is the most effective. They did just that, which is really solid to see. In that third quarter, it was interesting because the Bulls, they did have some mid-range attempts like here that just looked awful, but a lot of the stuff was in the paint when they went on that run, and a lot of it was fast break points too. But this is when the Bulls went on the run. So if you're not gonna make the 3 ball, if you're not gonna shoot the 3 ball, right, which they made 4 or 5 in this quarter, but if you're not gonna shoot a lot of it, then you gotta get into the paint, right? And the Bulls did just that. So that was good to see. Fourth quarter, kind of a similar story. Still, but it is fourth quarter. But good attacking of the rim in that fourth quarter as well. Hence the reason why Bulls pulled away. Look at the Denver Nuggets, though, right? The Denver Nuggets, they did not score much in the paint tonight. They scored 38 points in the paint. That was the difference in this game, straight up. They didn't really score in the paint, right? That's a big difference in that third quarter, and then in the fourth quarter, kind of similar story, right? And then also with this, the Denver Nuggets did not make their free throws. They shot 46% from the free throw line in this game. And if you look at their box score, they were 7 of 15. And this is when they missed a lot of the free throws when the Bulls went on that run. Free throws are an efficient shot. And the Denver Nuggets, I think they're overall pretty solid. I could be wrong, but from what I know, that they're a pretty solid free throw shooting team. Let's see here. No, they're not. Never mind. They're down here. So never mind. I'm wrong. Don't listen to me. But obviously shooting 46% is not normal. So they missed a lot of free throw attempts, which helped the Bulls moving forward. So good for them. Denver, they get about 22 free throw attempts per game. That's also, yeah, that's near the bottom. That's kind of where the Bulls usually are. So yeah, just miss free throws from them. That wasn't really good. Oh yeah, I watched all year screaming at the TV, attack the paint. Yeah, I mean, and here's the guy that I think did it most effective. Like, if there's one guy that I'm like really proud of tonight, that I'm like, keep doing this from here on out. Like, again, I don't care. Like, the season's a wash, but in the future, you have to continue doing this more. Patrick Williams, right? Patrick Williams all night. This is what he did all night. This is all he attacked the paint all night. And again, if this dude has a NBA body, he is strong, he's athletic, he has good jumping ability, good ball handling skills, he has a long wingspan, and he's also a 41% 3-point shooter. And instead, I see him shooting mid-range shots. That doesn't make any sense to me. It makes no sense to me whatsoever. And I need to see him do more of this, because this is how he can, in 9 shots, right, be more efficient. Like, I think a lot of people are saying, like, oh, I want to see Patrick Williams shoot 10 shots per game. Like, okay, that's fine, but what shots are they? Right? Are they efficient shots? Like, if it's 10 mid-range shots, to me, I would much rather have you off the floor, right? I don't want you out there then. But if it's 10 shots that were in the paint and also from 3-point range, I'm all for it, because that's how he's going to be able to put up 18 points on 9 shots. Like, that's how it works. So I just hope to see more of that moving forward from him. 151 versus 364 threes, points equals shots, yeah. Zach also took only 4 middies, missed them rest for threes and in the paint. So yeah, Zach, I wasn't necessarily happy with Zach in the beginning of the game, right? Like Zach in the first quarter, in my opinion, was taking too many mid-range shots. So let's just look at Zach here. As you can see with Zach, he made legit everything tonight around the basket. This is where Zach LaVine, in my opinion, with his health, is like, that's when you know he's like truly healthy, is when he's making all these shots at the rim, right? He's one of the top guards in the league in terms of finishing around the basket. This was fantastic by him. And then you see the 3-point shots come along here. Now, to me, I think it was this one right here. This one made no sense. This was like right out of the gate in the second half. He took a step back mid-range shot. I'm like, what are you doing? That's not good. This one right here also was in the first quarter. He just kind of isolated it and then just took a shot. I didn't like this one either. Now, these 2 shots here, I can kind of live with. Like, this one was kind of more in rhythm for Zach. He kind of was coming off the pick and roll, tried to drive it. Nothing was really there, decided to take it. This one was also very similar, where he came off a Vucevic screen, and the defense straight up just collapsed onto him, and he took the mid-range. Like I said, like, Zach has earned the right, in my opinion, to shoot that mid-range. It's just, I need him to just have better shot selection overall. It's just, like, he can shoot it. It has to be at better moments. So, in my opinion, instead of him taking that mid-range here and this mid-range shot here, both of these can be step back for 3-point shots. And instead of him taking only 5 tonight, he could have taken 7. I think that would have been a little bit better. But either way, I'm not going to complain too hard, because he did exactly what I want to see, which is attack the rim all night and finish at the rim all night. Didn't miss a shot at the rim. And he had 29 points and 18 shots, and 12 of 18 from the field. So not going to complain too hard about it. I still think he can take more threes for sure. But I also think that he is being held down by Billy Donovan's offensive scheme, so I don't know how much I can blame Zach, on this sort of thing. Yeah, that one you were talking about was a classic Zach what the fuck moment. Yeah, I mean, I think with Zach, like, there's always going to be one of those shots per game where it's like, what? But here's the thing. Like, people are always kind of like the WTF moment when he shoots that 3 ball. To me, the WTF moment should be when he takes that mid-range shot. That it's like there's no reason to take that mid-range shot. Like, again, there are always going to be moments where Zach has to take the mid-range. And I'm going to be willing to say, like, yeah, that's a 5 mid-range shot, and he's, one of the top scorers on this league, or on this team. So take it. That's fine. I'm not here to stop you from that. But it's when I see these shots that I'm just like, there's no reason to take that mid-range shot at that moment. That's the WTF moment, in my opinion. If he's shooting a 3 ball and it's people think it's contested or whatever, that to me is not a WTF moment. That to me is like, that's a good shot. Like, I would much rather, if he has a choice between a contested mid-range and a contested 3-point shot, I would much rather see the contested 3-point shot. And to me, it's a good shot. So, and let's be real, guys. You don't have to be wide open to take a 3-point shot. I think that's something in Bulls fans' heads. It's like, you shouldn't take the 3-point shot unless you're wide open. To me, that makes absolutely no damn sense. I don't want to hear that. Because if you look around the league, it's not just stars that take contested threes. It's everybody, right? Role players. It doesn't matter who you are. If you have a chance to at least get an okay look at a 3-point shot, they take it. That's how it works. And then you see with the stars, like, it's not shocking to see the stars that they'll shoot a 3 with their hand in their face. Like, that's how it's supposed to work. Damian Lillard will shoot the 3 ball from 35 feet out with 2 guys in his face. How it goes, right? So, I just think that this is something that Bulls fans need to get used to. I'm aware that Bulls fans are all about that grit and grind, I'm aware that this is how we've grown up. We're a blue-collar type city, and I respect that out of Chicago. I love that about Chicago. And we lived through the Tibbs years. We lived through the Rodman and, the 90s eras, right? But that era's gone, right? It just has to be punched out of us, and I'm gonna be the guy that's gonna be advocating for it. Yeah, that's Chicago sports, man. I mean, look, man. Here's the thing: like, it's legit in every single Chicago sports team. The blue collar type mentality, the defense first is always how everything's gonna work, and I get it. But I do believe that defense is an important part of championships. I don't think it necessarily wins you championships, though. I do think the defense is a big part of championships. It doesn't win you championships, but let's just take the Bears, right? The Bears, I swear to God, they always are struggling to find a quarterback. I do like Justin Fields though, but it's always like we don't need a quarterback because our defense is going to carry us. Like that's don't worry, we got it, right? And it's like, have you seen how the NFL works in today's world? Like, we just had one of the best Super Bowls, honestly, in a long time, and it was because we had two superstar quarterbacks just thrown into two great offenses. Like, that's how the NFL has changed, right? It's the same thing with the Bulls, right? The Bulls have always been the hard hat team, the grit and grind. They rely on their defense. The Tibbs years are ridiculous to look at because their defense is so stellar in those years, but yet the offense is always an issue. Like, it's so weird to look at, but they got regular season wins, but come playoff time, they couldn't do a damn thing because they can't score. So, moving into this era, right? It's a different era. You have to adjust, and you're straight up all about defensive scheme, everything. It's not going to work. Hell, the Memphis Grizzlies, who were the whole grit and grind type play style for many, many years, and they had many, many good playoff runs with it, they had to scrap it. They had to scrap that mentality because it doesn't work, right? And, I do think that Memphis always plays with a chip on their shoulder, but you can kind of see that they're still playing more modern style basketball where they legit are at the top of the league in fast break points per game. Like, that's how it works. You have to adjust to the game. And I'm just sad to see that this Bulls team is behind. Funny thing is we can still be grit and grind and shoot threes at the same time. One thing shouldn't race the other, either one or other. Why not both? I agree. I still think that we could be a good defensive team and shoot 3-point shots. Like, I agree with that completely. But what I don't want to see is then the grit and grind fall into the offensive system, right? Because that one thing about the grit and grind was always that we're gonna post up, we're gonna beat you down, we're gonna be just punching you around in the paint, we're gonna try to bully ball you the entire game, right? That's when the grit and grind goes into the offensive system, and that's when it gets all messed up, right? I don't want the grit and grind in the offensive system. That just does not work in today's world anymore. Also, let's be real, the grit and grind relied on better, or I would say better, but just different rules, right? You can hand check. You can play better, play defense a little bit more. You have to adjust. Right? You just straight up have to adjust. And if you play the grit and grind on the offensive end, you're legit hampering your own self. You're legit taking away opportunities from your own team. That's all on you, and it's not on the defense. It's all your fault if you play that sort of style. And guess what? The Bulls are playing that style right now. That's what they're doing. And it's driving me insane. I hate it. 2011 would probably be the best defense in the league. There were a couple of close games versus the Heat. But they clapped us eventually because they had more options that could score more. Oh, I agree. 100%. Yeah. Poor Derek had to carry 7% of that offense scoring career, and we were paying Def and Carlos Boozer to clap and celebrate while scoring 12 points per game in the playoffs. Yeah. And here's the thing, guys. I love Luol Deng. I had a chance to, in one of my DePaul classes, to actually talk to Luol Deng on a Zoom call, and I'm forever grateful for it. But one thing about Luol Deng, even though he's a 2-time All-Star, like, he's a pretty okay scorer, but he wasn't like a 20-point per game scorer, right? So it kind of showed you how much Derek had on his shoulders to carry the offensive load. Carlos Boozer, not a consistent scorer for us. Like, I mean, he had some alright seasons. It just wasn't there, right? And Joakim Noah, what is he? A defensive player of the year. And he could pass very well, but he's going to give you 10 points on the offensive end. He's not going to give you much. So, yeah, it really does show you, like, that Heat team, like, no, it's not a shocker that they beat all the teams in the NBA, right? They won 2 championships, but it shows you that you can be a fantastic defensive team, right? And that Heat team was, right? And this is when we're talking about prime LeBron, prime D-Wade, prime Chris Bosh, that when they're actually still playing defense, right? But you have the offense. And that was when the mid-range shot was effective back then, and it still, though, in the end, it shows, like, you still need to have those offensive options. And they had the best player in the world at the time with LeBron, so that obviously also helps. So, yeah, it does kind of show you the difference, right? I honestly, the Bulls could have won a title not for Rose's knee. I think better offensive players would have come if he had been healthy. Probably. I think it's interesting. I think the 2012-13 season was an interesting year for the Bulls because I always question if, let's say, the Bulls had Derek that year, right, where Nate Robinson was on that team, right? And honestly, the thing is that if Derek was healthy, Nate probably isn't on that team. But the Bulls also had Marco Bellinelli that season, a shooter, right, a guy that can score the ball, right? And they also had like another shooter named Daquan Cook, if you remember that name, right? Like, they had more guys, I feel like, on that 2013 team and a little bit more depth than some of their other teams, right? That could have potentially had Derek on it. Because then if you look at, for example, the 2014 season where you lost Marco Bellinelli, no more Rip Hamilton, and he was just injured. Lost Nate Robinson. You traded Luol Deng that season. It just, that team had no offense. It was all defense, and it sucked offensively. It just straight up sucked. So I don't know. That 2012-13 season, I always kind of question. Like, maybe if Derek just was healthy. But yeah. Highlight of the Boozers sit was the celebration ending with punching that refs. Yeah. By 2013, their D was declining. The 2013-14 window would have been that shot. The 2013-14 window was the year that the Bulls had DJ Augustine as the backup point guard. They traded Luol Deng. And Jimmy Butler did not have a good year. So to me, that 2013-14 season would not have been it. To me, it would have been the 2012-13 season. I'm just, again, it's just assuming that Derrick Rose has never got injured, fully healthy, right? But yeah, it's tough. It's kind of tough to figure out. We got declined by Wade, LeBron, Bosh, and Carmelo that free agency. We ended up with paying Boozy the same amount of money LeBron got from the Heat. Oh yeah, don't get me started about what the Bulls have paid to some of these guys. Like, yeah, it's bad. Daquan Cook, OKC Thunder legend. Did you hear about Sean Kemp today? I did see that tweet by Woj. That is very concerning. I'll just say that. I'm not happy to see that. Boozer was pretty much athletically cooked by the time we got him. He was definitely not the good Jazz Boozer. Yeah. So Sean Kemp is currently, I believe, Woj said in an inmate place, but basically jailed. Yeah, I'm concerned. It is overall pretty concerning to kind of see that. I'll go to Twitter now and bring up the Woj tweet here. But sorry, yeah, he's in an inmate listings. That's what he said. Has been booked in for an alleged drive-by shooting. Now, I don't know all the details of it personally, so I'm not here to kind of say anything. All I'm just gonna say is this. I think it's important to understand how much guns have ruined lives and have taken lives and have caused some ridiculous amount of trauma in the United States of America. And to see Sean Kemp potentially be involved in this is sad to see. I think that I don't know if he was the one shooting the gun or not, or if he just happened to be involved in it. But either way, I don't like seeing it. So yeah. Man, I'm so sad. I love Kemp. He was such a specimen. He could have a great career. Could defend, shoot the middle, dribble the ball. Yeah. Sean Kemp, man. You want to talk about an athlete? Oh my God, man. Sean Kemp was an athlete. just he looked like he could just jump higher than anybody in the 90s except for Jordan, right? It just, or again, I guess Dominique Wilkins also when Dominique was in his prime. And that wasn't 90s. That's when Dominique tore his Achilles, I believe. So. But yeah, Sean Kemp, man, the amount of stuff that he could do was crazy. So it is sad to see this. We're gonna really see what happened. We'll get more information on it later. I have not read this, by the way. I have not read anything about this, so I'm not here to make a statement or anything about it. Just sad to see. And I would wish that people would be more smarter with their decisions. Other thing too, because we are on the gun topic, John Morant and his thing. Like, I just want to say this. I publicly, or I on the stream, I made like a kind of a bit of a rant about Ja and how much I don't like him talking and all this off court stuff, right? And the reason why I brought this up was because there was a thing by the Washington Post about Ja, and it was about him making threats at a teenager, and punching them, and then also bringing a gun to the scene. And then that thing happened with the IG or on Instagram Live. He has a gun in the club, and look, man, I'm not here to argue politics. I know that guns are political. Okay, so you can have your opinion on whether you think that people should be carrying around firearms, or if you think that certain people should be allowed to have firearms. But either way, okay, it looks very, very bad on Ja. Just straight up looks bad. It looks awful. And to me, I can say this in my opinion. I'm not being racist, right? Because if this was another guy that was not black, that was white, doing the exact same thing, it looks awful still. It just straight up looks awful. So I want to be clear that I am not trying to turn this into a race story. This to me just shows you immaturity and a lack of responsibility by Ja. Ja Morant is a rising superstar in the league. Now I do think that I do think that Ja's prime years aren't exactly going to last that long because of his size, but either way, the dude is one of the best, is the best player on the team in the Western Conference that has a top 3 record, right? You just straight up can't do that. It's straight up sad, but also just it almost angers me to the point where I'm like, look, man, you have people around you that have supported you, that have done everything for you. Your teammates need you, right? Like the Western Conference, if you're not aware right now of the standings, guys, the Western Conference is tight, okay? Like, look at how close it is in the Western Conference right now. The Memphis Grizzlies, they just lost the 2nd seed. They can easily drop down to 4 in the next 2 games, right? They need Ja. The teammates need Ja. They need his superstar explosiveness, and he, at the very minimum, is going to be missing the next 4 games. And in my opinion, is probably going to be out indefinitely. I don't know if he's going to return and come playoff time. I think he will, because the NBA wants money, and they're going to want Ja Morant playing. But it's so, like, if I was Ja Morant's teammate right now, like, I don't even know how they're getting through this, because I would be personally livid. I would be so upset right now at Ja for doing that sort of thing. So I'm going to end this by saying this. I think that Ja Morant made a mistake. I don't think that this should, completely paint the picture of who he is as a person. I don't think he's a bad person totally. I don't think he's overall criminal or anything. What I do think, though, is that he needs help, and I hope that he is getting that help, because he clearly has issues going on, and I don't know if it's depression. I don't know if it's a bipolar. I don't know if it's just, he's mentally just not in a good spot. Either way, though, that's not something to be ignored, and it should be addressed, and I hope that he is addressing that issue now. And it is a significant issue. That's not something that I think should be played down and say. And I'm not that person that has said, "Oh, you're a man, be strong and get through it." That's not how it's supposed to work. Okay, that is something that has been ingrained in toxic masculinity and our hegemonic masculinity culture, and it is sad to see that is what most men have to think: is we can't have emotions, we can't have problems with our mental health. Ja Morant clearly has something mentally going on, and I hope he gets it addressed, because that is the right thing to do. And it does not make him weak. It does not make him less of a man. It does not make him any worse of a person if he is addressing his mental health issue. So I want him to go get that addressed, get reset, come back, and then come support your team for the playoff run. I hope he does it in time. And I hope it doesn't cost the Grizzlies home court advantage in the first round. There are some Waffle Houses where I wouldn't go in the South after dark. Oh, look, man, America's scary. I don't really even care where you live. Like, I know everyone says city. Like, look, man, I truly do not care. If you're in the suburbs, if you're in the country, it's scary. Okay, it is scary out at night, no matter where you are in America, and it's because of guns. And again, you have the ability to have your opinion on what a person should have a gun or not. It's the reality. school shootings happen here a ton, and and I'll just be honest. When I see Ja have a gun, just kind of messing around with it and joking around with it, all I can think about is school shootings. It really grinds my gears and makes me extremely sad and very angry when I just see that sort of stuff. It's not something that should be just kind of played around with. And if you're not aware, school shootings in the United States of America it's one of the harshest things about our country, and it shouldn't be a reality, but here we are. So, meanwhile, Stephon Marbury got blackballed from the league for uploading a YouTube video where he was crying and licking Vaseline. Yeah, so I think that kind of shows you an example of how times have changed in the world, right? Where you're allowed to see, or I should say, culture, American culture is starting to become more flexible with what a man can do. And I feel like it's not good. It's not where it needs to be, right? Because if a man ever shows a bit of femininity, right, they get tarnished, right? And I think that that's something that needs to still get worked on. And I want to see that change in American culture. If you're not aware of what I'm talking about here, like, this is something that I've been studying a lot in my college classes, but there's something called hegemonic masculinity, that is basically what the American culture is built around, right? Which is that men rule everything, but specifically white men rule everything. I'm an Asian man in this world, and I know that I am considered a minority, right? But hegemonic masculinity, if you don't know what hegemony is, which is what hegemonic comes from, hegemonic or hegemony means that there's always someone at the top, right, that controls the people at the bottom. But to get the people at the bottom to comply with the people at the top have to give the people at the bottom something, like a little bit of something. So, for example, I think a great example of this is let's just use the example of Twitter. Okay, Elon Musk is the head of Twitter, right? And you can kind of see after he took over that people are pretty pissed off at him, right? So that to at least have people comply with him, right, he has to give the people of Twitter something, right? At least a win. I don't care what it is, just a little bit of something, right? And, you know, he's kind of listening to some feedback, and so he'll make some changes here and there. But if there's, like, let's say he'll make a change, right, and there's a major outcry, then he'll just get rid of it completely. And that's like a win for the people at the bottom, right? Basically in that sort of example, that is hegemonic masculinity. Elon Musk is a white man with power that is overruling a platform that everybody has access to, right? And he is giving these people, giving everyone little wins just so that they'll still use the platform, right? They'll still use Twitter. And even for some, they'll pay for Twitter Blue. So for America, right, hegemonic masculinity, think about it. People at the top, they rule over, but they give people little wins. And when I look at this, I specifically look at the, LGBTQ community, but also just in general, for example, someone like me, I have long hair, right? And when I grew up with long hair, boys would make fun of me for saying that I look like a girl. That's part of hegemonic masculinity, of that sort of standard of men or boys should have short hair and girls have long hair, or in a sense, masculinity should have short hair, but femininity should have long hair. But that, to me, I feel like it's overall wrong. I think that's something that needs to get addressed in today's world. And I do think that longer hair on men and shorter hair on women have become more acceptable. And I think that is how it should be. It's still not 100% accepted everywhere, and I'm sad that is the case. I'm not gay, by the way. I am very much a straight man. It's not like I'm part of LGBTQ. But me as a straight man, I feel like I have the right to have long hair. And that's that's something that I think is my identity, and I'm not changing that. So basically, what I'm trying to get to though is that when it comes to something like this with Stephon Marbury, right? When he got, that video comes out, everyone sees it, and they're like, "What are you doing? You're not, you don't know what you're not being a man, etc., right?" That I feel like has kind of started to go away a little bit. We're still not perfect, right? Or at least in my opinion, we're still not where we need to be, but it's progressing to the point where it's getting better. But there's a lot of work to do. There's gangster people everywhere. For the record, I live in St. Louis area, and we are one of the most northern towns with Waffle Houses. Here's the thing. I don't even care. Like, I don't even use the word gangster, right? I feel like there's anybody with a gun in today's world in the United States. I don't care what the color of your skin, where you're from, your background, ethnicity. I don't care. I just think that's scary, right? And then hence going out at night is overall a scary thing, and it's unfortunate because that shouldn't be the case. But yeah, it is the unfortunate reality of the place we live in, unfortunately. Let's see. New York broke the man. Instead of helping him, he got banned. He was never able to truly understand racism. I was never truly able to understand racism. Never saw Asians, blacks, etc. We are all freaking humans. We meet. You meet the person, you either accept them for who he is or a person or not. Categorizing people by color, ethnicity, etc. is something I just can't wrap my head around. Yeah. What you just said about the men is a thing. It doesn't go away easily. You aren't allowed to cry, you aren't allowed to show emotion, sadness, etc. You're weak. Yeah, and I think that's part of, that is ingrained in our culture, and it's sad to see that. Like, I'll just tell you this is also personal to me. I go to see a therapist every 2 weeks. Okay, and I know, let's say if I did that 10 years ago, I would be looked upon as a weak person. Like, that to me is wrong. I think that's just straight up wrong. And so when it comes to Ja, right, if he is going to see a therapist, right, he should not be labeled as weak. He should not be labeled as a weak man. He should not be labeled as a person that isn't strong, right? He should not be labeled as a person that doesn't know how to handle their emotions or be a leader. Like that I don't want all that to start coming at him because people think that a man shouldn't have to go to therapy. Like I worry that's going to happen with him. I know it's going to happen. Like, I know there's always going to be those people are just stuck at, stuck in the, pre-Civil War era and stuff like that. But I just hope that doesn't happen. And I hope that he gets support, not just from people, but from the fans as well. And I would wish that fans could empathize with him more about this. I'm still criticizing him heavily. I'm not saying that he deserves to have a get out of jail free card here, but I want to make sure that he gets the right amount of support, right, and gets the help that he needs, right. St. Louis crime is through the roof. I mean, listen, guys. I just think when it comes to crime rate, like, people look at crime rate and they're like, oh my god, like, look at this or that. To me, I don't care where you are. I just think that there's violence everywhere. So yeah. We're all humans, race is completely social construct. It is, unfortunately. Let's see. Low touch people I'm close with, showing them low, and I want say miss me with the gayish. I was the one feeling like there is something wrong with me. I'm sorry you felt that way, Box, and unfortunately, I do think that is something that is common for young men to say as they grow up, right? Like, they'll if you like hug another guy, it's like no, they'll say something that Jordan Poole said, right? That starts with the H. It's no HOMO, right? That needs to go away. That needs to go. That needs to just get out of our culture. It is awful to say such things, right? And it really makes you feel horrible as a person, right? And look, here's the thing. I'll even admit this, guys. I also have, like, as I grew up, I've also said some horrible things, especially towards the gay community. I did not know what exactly it meant, but I think that's also part of what it shows, like the standard of of our society is like this, saying something about someone that's gay or saying something negative about someone that is gay was a standard in our society. And you know, we're going towards, we're progressing, and like I admit to that fault, and I am upset at myself, and I'm ashamed that I even have said some of the things I've said in the past. But it shows you again how much that sort of standard is ingrained in our culture. And so I just hope that people, like, everyone says get educated. That does not mean go to college. That does not mean to go and get a master's degree or, you know, whatever. It just means listening to other people that you're not in their shoes, right? It means doing your own research on your own time and trying to understand why people do things, right? That's what educating yourself is. It's not about going into a college level course. That's not what it's about, right? So I think that unfortunately when it comes to this sort of stuff, like with Ja, racism immediately comes a part of this. And then also when it comes to him getting help and how he returns to the court, I feel like a lot of people are saying, well, how about you just man up and fix it yourself and go out and play, when that's not how it should work, right? Hence then toxic masculinity comes into play, and it's sad to see. True violence is everywhere. At the end of the day, don't feel bad. I was ignorant for a long time. Yeah, I mean, look, man, I was ignorant for a good amount of my adolescent years, I'll say, and all I'm gonna say is that I've learned, and I think it's important that you do learn. Yeah, as we all grow with all that ish that patriarchy preaches, we end up growing broken and not socially adept. That's how men end up making girls and other men feel uncomfortable or bad or even hurt. Truer words have never been spoken. Yeah. One thing that I'm also gonna say with this, like, I hope with Ja, okay, what I truly hope goes on in that locker room, right? What I truly hope goes on is, like, I can understand being upset with him if you're a teammate, but what I don't want is them to say he's weak, right? Or them to come after him and say that you're a weak person. Like, I don't think his teammates would do that, but I'm also aware of locker room culture. Locker room culture is a thing, right? So yeah. Be honest, most of toxic masculinity isn't even masculine. It's people compensating because they're not secure in their own masculinity. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Have you? Okay, what's it called? Hold on, I'm gonna search up a term here. Have you guys heard of murder ball? Okay. I feel like this is one of those things that can sorry, it's just maybe antisocial. I can't find the correct word. Not well adjusted. I do think that toxic masculinity is part of that. I can kind of see that. But I don't necessarily think it's specifically antisocial. It can definitely be part of it. If you don't know what murder ball is, okay, murder ball is this it's this rugby league for people with physical disabilities. Okay, now a lot of people, when it comes to murder ball, okay, what you tend to see happen is someone that isn't disabled, okay, they'll start trash talking these people that are physically disabled, right? And hence, as what Ryan has said, right, it's people compensating because they're not secure in their own masculinity, right? The person that decides to start bullying these sorts of people, saying negative things about them, but also saying some very, like, sexually bad things about them, like, and when I say sexually, like, they'll make, like, jokes that are very sexual innuendos, and it's very, very just disgusting sort of jokes when it comes to these people, okay? That is an example of toxic masculinity, right? And it's because the people that are are physically abled, they're not secure in their own masculinity, and so they see someone that's lower or they see someone that they think is lower, that has lower masculinity on them, and then they go ahead and harp on them, right? If you don't know what murder ball is, I'm gonna show you a clip, but it is a very, very extremely tough sport. Okay, this sport is one of the craziest things that I have seen, because I'm always scared for people and their own mental. But if you watch how these guys or girls too play, it is something to behold. They're actually here. Let me. I'm gonna search this up. These guys in wheelchairs, or girls in wheelchairs, okay? You can see just how much they're colliding into each other, and you see all of them, like, they fall over, they are hitting each other hard, they're ramming into each other, and a lot of people initially think, and this is something that toxic masculinity will do, is that they joke about this, say like, oh my god, they wouldn't know how to get back up, or they're so physically disabled that they can't physically have the strength to bring themselves back up. This is normal. This is a normal thing in murder ball, right? Hence why it gets that name of murder ball, because this is normal. You're supposed to hit your opponent hard. You're supposed to fall over. That's normal. And guess what? They get right back up. That's how it's normal in this sort of league. But because people see physically disabled people, they think immediately, oh, they don't know how to do things, or they're not physically able to do such a thing, and hence then their masculinity is very poor. And it drives me insane. And so this is something that I learned in a college class, and it's really given me a big perspective on how people that are physically abled, right, talk about sports for the physically disabled, right? I think the Paralympics, right? Those are something that's a sporting event that some physically abled people will trash talk about them. And we've even seen countries decide that we're not going to hold the Paralympics, aka Russia. Like, this is something that it's not just ingrained in American culture, it's ingrained everywhere, right? And I just hope that as we move forward, that changes, right? And we start to kind of see more acceptance, right, of something like murder ball, right? Yeah. Meanwhile, they are grinding and doing sports, and people making fun of them are probably couch potatoes. Oh, 100%, 100%. It's the people that are, the people that kind of just sit there and they don't know how to do anything, right? Those are the people that are criticizing the people that are out there playing murder ball, or people in the Paralympics, right? It straight up just shows you, again, insecurity of your own masculinity. That's all it is. Hence, I like to call it toxic masculinity, because I think it kind of really wraps it up in the best way possible and really drives home the point. But yeah, you can call it whatever you want. But yeah. Does that have something to do with other guys calling other men beta males? Not 100%. I do think that sometimes it does, for sure. But, for example, I'll say this. I think I'm a person that is overall beta. And what I mean by that is, I'm not a person that likes to confront people, right? Like, for example, I'll say this. If I go to a restaurant and I order something and the order is wrong, right? I typically don't say anything. I'm like, okay, it is what it is. And people have said, like, that's very beta of you. You're a beta male. Now, the thing is, though, is that people say I'm beta, right? And the reason why is because people think masculinity is all about confrontation, yelling, getting what you want, driving home your point, right? And being the best or bigger man in the room, right? That's why people say beta male. To me, though, I think that that's something that needs to be more accepted, that beta male does not make you any less masculine, right? people just think that masculinity just kind of is a part of that, and hence if you don't show that sort of feature or characteristic, you're a beta male, right? But I do think though that some people will be showing toxic masculinity and saying to people that you're a beta male and calling them that name, but it's used in more of a derogatory term, right? Instead of just describing yourself. This is kind of where the gray line kind of comes in, but the way I kind of look at things is always acceptance, right? I think we're all just who we are, right? And I think that's something that just needs to be accepted. So if I'm not a person that is going to be going up to the waiter and saying, hey, my meal's wrong, I don't think that should make me any less of a man, right? I don't think that should say anything about me, right? That just says that, all right, you're just a person that does not that does not look for confrontation, and that's it. That it should just end right there, right? But yeah, so I apologize for going all academic on you, I guess. Like, I know that these are some bigger terms, and these are typically things that, I guess I shouldn't even say academic, but just, culture type terms, right? I apologize I went there, but I do think that it's important to talk about because when it comes to something like Ja or something like Sean Kemp, right? This matters. Like, I do think that a lot of people look at sports as like a way of escaping the world, but in the end, we're all humans, right? Sean Kemp is a human. Ja Morant is a human. And it's important for us to remember that at the end of the day. And they're men at the end of the day. And how they're going to get treated on this is going to be very interesting to watch. And I just hope that they get the right treatment, the right kind of support, right? They deserve criticism, for sure. I'm not saying they're not washed of criticism. They deserve criticism. But let's make sure we criticize them the correct way. Let's make sure that we criticize them, right, for their actions and not start attacking their character or not start saying that, oh my god, they don't know how to be a man. Like, that's not a criticism. That's not legit criticism if you're going to tell me that Ja Morant does not know how to be a man, right? That is showing you how badly ingrained in our culture hegemonic masculinity has ruled, right? So I just want to make sure, I guess it's kind of setting the standard in this channel, but also a standard for myself, right? Because I also slip and say things I shouldn't. When I criticize a player, right, I am not attacking their being. I am not attacking their personality or how they are viewed as a man, right? I don't do that, right? I criticize their decision making for sure, but I'm not going to be here to say that, oh, Ja Morant, because he can't man up and get through this quicker, he doesn't know how to be a man. He's weak. He isn't mentally tough, and he has no idea how to be a leader, right? That's not what I'm going to say, right? I'm going to say, though, that he made a very dumb decision, and that dumb decision deserves consequences, and he needs to then go get the mental help that he needs, because that is the only way he is ever going to come out of this on the right side, right? So yeah, sorry to go on that tangent, but I hope we kind of understand what I'm getting at, because I do think that this is something that it's important to talk about when it comes to something with an athlete that is off the court, right? It's something that just cannot be ignored. Yeah, thank you guys for listening to me on this, and thank you for also talking to me about this, right? I do appreciate you guys also chiming in and saying and giving your opinions on this, right? Main thing is though is that we must respect each other better in our society, and I guarantee you in this stream and in this chat and community, we're gonna respect each other, right? We're gonna respect who we are, right? And I want that to be 100%. Everyone knows that, right? So for centuries, yep. What's going on, Noel? See, you just chimed in. What odd team we have? Oh yeah, very odd team. Still, overall, kind of not amazing, but good win tonight. I'll say that for sure. Just quickly go over what we talked about. Bulls paint point 66. That's fantastic. If you're not going to shoot threes, get into the paint. Bulls only shot 24 threes. So again, if you're not going to shoot threes, get into the paint. They did that. They won the paint battle. Hence, they won the game. Defense is also good again. So no issues there. But Bulls this season have not been good in terms of paint points per game. So if this number can go up, I feel like it's just going to help with this Bulls team moving forward. But you can't be at the bottom of both ends of the spectrum. You can't be at the bottom in terms of paint points per game, and you can also not be at the end in terms of 3-point attempts per game, right? And the Bulls are at the bottom of both. So hopefully they can start righting the ship, because as I've said many times, that this Bulls team cannot continue moving on into the modern era, shooting the least amount of threes per game and not getting any paint points. That just cannot happen. The mid-range game, it's not dead, but it can't be emphasized. So in this game, the mid-range was alive, but the biggest thing was the Bulls attacking in the paint. So as you can see here, Bulls just attacked the rim all night. They converted, and that's honestly the difference in this game. Good win tonight. I don't even know what to say. Like, it's like a statement game, but also like the Bulls have like a very low chance of making the playoffs anyway. So I don't even know what to really call it, but yeah, it's interesting to kind of think about. Lonzo contributes five threes, maybe. Even let's say he shoots 7 threes in this game. You're only at 31 attempts, which is still, in my opinion, too low. So either way, it's always, no matter, even if Lonzo's here and playing, it's still just, in general, it's still too much. Converse, yeah. Do you think we will gain momentum from this game, or will it be the same story? I think it's the same story, personally. The Denver Nuggets are kind of known not to protect the paint very well. So I think that's the reason why the Bulls were able to take advantage tonight. The Bulls this season, they have not scored in the paint effectively enough. And I just know that the 3-point shooting is not going to ever come around. So to me, if there's a place where the Bulls can change their offense so that it can be better, it would have to be in the paint. Because this, to me, that the 25 3-point attempts are like the usual that we see. I don't think it's going to change. I think it's just kind of here to stay. So if the Bulls can attack the paint more, yeah, I can see that being a momentum shifter. But to me, it's just going to be the same thing. It's going to be the same old story where the Bulls, they don't score in the paint, they don't shoot threes, they don't get... Oh, sorry, I hit the mic. They don't get to the free throw line enough, and then our offense is going to suck again, but our defense is going to look all right. Same old story, right? We usually gain momentum when you're 7 games under. That is true. But then same old, yeah. But we would need Vuce to shoot more threes to get to normal league level, and that's... I think that's fine. I also think that he could just shoot more shots in the paint. That would also work. If you're not aware, okay, let's look at this. This to me is one of the biggest issues with Vucevic right now. Okay, like I'm aware of what, like, he shoots a good amount of. Sorry, that's not this season. Hold on. Okay, this is old. StatMuse? I might have to go by StatMuse here. Alright, never mind. We'll go to Basketball Reference here. When it comes to Vucevic, right? One thing I need to see more of is his at the rim shots need to go up. Okay? He has shot more shots from 3 to 10 feet than he has shot more shots at the rim. Okay? Now, he shoots pretty well from 3 to 10 feet. I'm not saying it's bad, but clearly he shoots 70% from at the rim and 60% from 3 to 10 feet. He has also shot 119 shots from this area. And if you kind of combine it all up, he has shot more mid-range shots than 3-point shots this season. Okay? What is considered mid-range, right? So, this is the reason why I'm like, look, I don't care how you eliminate the mid-range from your game. If it's paint, threes, I don't care. Do it, right? Just figure it out. So if it's not shooting threes, but just getting more shots to the rim, awesome. If it's not getting more shots to the rim, but shooting threes, awesome. But what can't continue to happen is all this here, this just can't happen anymore. It's ridiculous to watch it happen. So enough of this in-between game with him. He just needs to just shoot better shots. Okay? Let's see here. And that's why we always lose to the Pacers with Miles Turner. Miles Turner, okay? Let's just look at Miles Turner's shot chart, okay? Now, Miles Turner, mind you, has not played as many games, okay? Let's keep this in mind, but Miles Turner, he has not played in as many games as Vucevic, okay? He has played in 56 games, so about 10 less than Vuce. But you see here, the shot chart is vastly different. Threes, paint, right? And yeah, you have some of this sprinkled in here, but it's not as much, right? As you can see, most of his shots come at the rim, and then here, right? And then obviously a three-point shot. But the 10 to 16, the 16 to 3 range, this is basically non-existent, right? That's what I want from Vuce, okay? Now I want to see more of that from Vucevic for the rest of the season at least. I don't want him back on the team next season, but yeah. Honestly, don't want to make the playoffs. It's not even worth it. I'm kind of heading that direction, but I still want to see just Zach play well, because again, if you're going to trade him or keep him, whatever, you want to play well so you get good trade value, or just keep him. And then also see some of these guys start shooting better shot selections, right? Patrick Williams, Ayo Dosunmu, Kobe White, right? I just want to see that in general. Like, if we lose the game, so what, right? But yeah, it's probably not even worth it at this point. I agree. Sabonis, he also has more jump shots and layup hook shots and dunks combined. So yeah, that's also another issue, but we'll talk about that another day. So Sabonis, mind you, does not shoot at all really from three. Okay, Sabonis has 71 attempts from 3-point range. He's not really a shooter. Okay, but even though he's not a shooter from 3-point range, as you can see here, the mid-range area is just, it's non-existent. He doesn't shoot from there. Everything for Domantas Sabonis is paint. At the rim, or you know, in that little floater area, right? It's here or it's here. That's how it works. So even a dude in Domantas Sabonis who does not shoot the three ball, right, and has a mid-range game, he's averaging more points per game than Nikola Vucevic. He is also not the main option for the Sacramento Kings, okay? And he's able to do this. I'm aware that Domantas Sabonis is more quick-footed. He's more agile. He might honestly be a better finisher than Vucevic at the rim, okay? I'm aware of it. But Vucevic has been, at the bare minimum, a very solid finisher at the rim. So I just need to see more of that. And again, is it Donovan? Is it him? I don't know. I don't know which one it is, but either way, it's not efficient. So I just would wish to see that change. He's probably gone next year anyway. If he's back, then I would hope that he would change, but we're gonna see moving forward. Do the pick and roll, roll and picks center stat for Sabonis compared to Vooch. Oh yeah, we can do that too. So in terms of pick and roll man here, okay. When it comes to Nikola Vucevic, he is in the 34th percentile in the league, right? When it comes to Domantas Sabonis, he is in the 78th percentile in the league in terms of being a pick and roll man. Okay, that's all this is. Now, in terms of frequency, Nikola Vucevic is up here at 27% frequency in the pick and roll, right? That's a very high number. Okay, honestly, it's probably like the highest out of anybody. Maybe not. Jakob Poeltl's here. Let's see here. So yeah, it's high for Vooch. Obviously, then for Domantas Sabonis, it's not as high. But as you can see right here, Domantas Sabonis in the pick and roll man, he is averaging 1.29 points per possession. Okay, Nikola Vucevic, he's averaging 1.04. So if you're wondering how percentile works, it's based off of frequency and points per possession, right? Vucevic has a lot of frequency in terms of being a pick and roll man, but he only scores 1.004 points per possession. Domantas Sabonis, on the other hand, he isn't really used as a pick and roll man that frequently, but averages 1.29 points per possession, hence he's in the 70th percentile. So, yeah. Difference is going to be laughable. It is laughable. It honestly is laughable, and it's really, really annoying. Yeah, but they are an offensive-oriented team, so maybe that's why his numbers are higher. Sure, but all I'm going to say is this. Let's think first about shot selection, right? And also, how many times does Vooch roll instead versus fading, right? I'm aware that that's an offensive-oriented system, but this offensive system, mind you, is supposed to be better this season, right? Billy Donovan changed the offensive system to be better this season, and it's not better this season, right? So I think it's more important to kind of look at shot selection, right? And think about that first instead of thinking, okay, well, different offensive system. I'm aware, but let's just be real. That Kings offensive system, it's 10 times better than the Bulls offensive system right now. Like, it's way better. It's not even close. So, yeah, it's not fun to look at in terms of all these stats. Sabonis is averaging about 11.5 field goal attempts per game, okay? So, that's less than last season, okay? Let's just keep this in mind. When it comes to Nikola Vucevic, okay? This is where I talk about efficiency. Vucevic is averaging 14 shots per game, okay? He gets the ball a good chunk of the time. Like, he averages more shots than Domantas Sabonis, but he's averaging less points, okay? This is the reason why I always say efficiency matters, right? Because Domantas Sabonis in 11.7 shots per game can average 18.9 points per game, but Nikola Vucevic needs 14.1 shots per game to average 17.6. Efficiency at the end of the day matters. This is the reason why. Nikola Vucevic, because he takes all those mid-range shots, it takes him more shots to get not even to Domantas Sabonis' average, right? That's the issue. Sabonis understands his strengths and plays his strengths, doesn't force bad shots. It's great underrated passing. He sets the best illegal picks ever. Yeah, that is. He does get away with illegal picks for sure, but it's clever. He is dribbling. Handling it off when it stops his movement and setting the pick at the same time. Hard to call it, although it is a moving screen by the book. It is a moving screen, but I feel like that's something that a lot of teams have incorporated, right? The little handoff dribble, right? It's effective. And we kind of see that in the Bulls offense, kind of, but we don't see that in the weak side action or the proper initial action in that Bulls offense to get to that point, right? So, hence where the Bulls offensive system kind of fails. It's overall kind of bad to look at. Obviously, the Kings, they've had a phenomenal season. I'm looking forward to them in the playoffs, and now they're the 2 seed. So, yeah, something to kind of look at. Sabonis obviously having a great year. Fox is obviously has taken over. So, yeah, it's awesome to just kind of look at for this Kings team. Apparently they called that a moving screen to us a couple times, but when I was fuming, yeah. Welcome to the NBA where the Bulls get ruined by the officials. Nothing new, unfortunately. We got screwed over by the officials today. There was a goaltend that wasn't called on Aaron Gordon. It was an obvious goaltend, and there were 3 officials looking at it. Nothing was called. So yeah, it just shows you how bad the officials have been all season, which I've been complaining about. I guess the league right now is moving towards an era of big man playmaking. It for sure is, and here's the thing. I think Vooch can have that, right? I think Vooch has that sort of passing in his game. The problem is that he doesn't get into those spots where he's like most effective, where he can draw multiple defenders and then kick it out, right? We are like permanently shafted. Yes, we are. That's the reason why. It's so frustrating to look at with this Bulls team. It's like Vooch, it's either that he doesn't want to do it or Billy Donovan isn't putting him in the right spots, right? Şengün, Sabonis, and Jokic, Vooch can pass, but he's nowhere near the level. Let's be honest with that. He's nowhere near the level of those guys in terms of dribbling the ball, right, and being able to then draw multiple defenders. But his passing, in my opinion, is very solid, right? I can kind of consider Vooch like how I consider Lonzo. Like Lonzo does not have the dribble ability to draw multiple defenders, collapse the defense, etc. But what Lonzo does have is the passing ability, right? It's very similar to Vooch. So I just still think though that even if Vooch doesn't have that dribbling ability, you can still put him in positions to be able to pass the ball effectively. He's just not being put in those positions right now, or he's not choosing to do it, right? Even with Orlando, where he could literally do whatever the F he wanted, he was never a control center type of center. Yeah, in Orlando, he was very much a post-up center, and then he started to transition to the 3-ball. But it was a lot of post-ups in Orlando, for sure. Yeah. Which, in my opinion, is like where he relies mostly on his playmaking, but as I've said, playmaking in the post is not effective unless you're Draymond Green, the Golden State Warriors, and you legit only look to pass out of the post, and you got guys running around you all over the place, right? And that's not even playmaking, that's just cutting, that's setting screens to get guys open, he passes the ball, layup, right? That's not even playmaking, that's just good passing. So, yeah, end of the day, passing out of the post or trying to playmake out of the post is not going to be very effective. Yeah, something to keep in mind. Even got Joel Embiid, for example, where I consider Joel Embiid like a scorer, right? He is a better playmaker than Vooch, right? Even though that he is score first. He's giving the ball to the high post and he's making good pass decisions. I'm not saying he is a bad passer. He is good, but he is not so good that we should focus into him playmaking. I agree. Now, I do think, though, that he can be put in better positions, right, where he could draw in the defenders and then find the open man better, but I agree with you. Bulls have 0 ball movement now that I think about it. Sorry, Noel. I'm disagreeing. I'm going to disagree with you. Like, I'm aware that there is issues with this offense. There are times, yes, it gets stagnant. There are times, yes, Fox and I just talked about this a lot, that it gets slowed down. But in terms of passes made per game, the Bulls are right here at the top, right? So I honestly think that this Bulls team passes the ball a lot. The issue is, you see here, the Bulls passing, it does not really lead to that many created assists, right? It doesn't lead to that many potential assists. So if you go down here, right, you see the Bulls are down here in terms of potential assists, and then assist points created. They're actually up here. Never mind. No, they're not. They're down here. So there's ball movement. It's just it's not a good system, right? It is a very bad system because the offensive scheme that they run, the plays that they run, it has ball movement. It doesn't do crap, right? It's straight up. It doesn't create anything in the offense. Yeah. It's only Zach off-ball movement. Look. So Zach LaVine, as an off-ball player, is probably the most effective off-ball player on this Bulls roster. But I've always said, player movement can negate lack of spacing. Like, and just better overall scheme can get you better. Like, better player movement with a better overall scheme can get you more points and have a better overall offense, even if you don't have the shooting. It doesn't matter if you have the shooting or not. But just having better off-ball movement and a better off-ball play setup, it will help this Bulls offense tremendously. But we don't see that. It's a lot of just kind of standing there, and it'll be like kind of simple little movements, but it's not a lot of movement, and that's where Donovan, I feel like, really fails. But that's just my opinion. They do pass it, but it doesn't contribute to open looks a lot of time. Yes, I agree. We move the ball, but aimless, yeah. No, don't forget how many open shots we create, but end up to DeMar at the 3, to Io, to Pugh when they either pass the shot or move it to the mid-range. Yep, that's also something to keep in mind. Like, here's the thing. I honestly think that this Bulls offense, like, if, let's just say Patrick Williams and Io DeSumo shot the ball like they should, right? I think that this Bulls offense can average like 30, 31, 32 threes per game. But, like, it's still too low. But, yeah, we are passing up shots in the offense, for sure. Yeah, perhaps because our team don't have confident three-point shooters. Again, though, they at the very least, Patrick Williams should have the confidence. At the very least, he should. The dude is shooting 41% from three this season. If there's anybody that should have the confidence to just launch a three, right, this dude. But the coaching has failed. It has failed tremendously with this dude. And it's not about him like not becoming a star now. Like, I don't expect a star from Patrick Williams right now. But he shoots 41%. And he averages 3.4 attempts per game from three. He could easily average 6. Easily. And I'm sure that percentage goes down. But guess what? It's more points. We create a lot of open shots. We just mostly don't take them. We are bipolar, I'm convinced. I wouldn't say a lot of open shots. I do think that we create some open shots. It's just we don't take them. Hence why the team is just offense is so god awful. And then we got Kelly Oubre, the bricklayer, shooting 7 threes per game. Yeah, Kelly Oubre shoots 31% from three-point range and is shooting 7 threes per game. Kind of shows you that there's a lot of things wrong with this Bulls offense. Yeah, guys like Zach LaVine only shooting 7 per game when he should be shooting close to 10. And Kelly Oubre shoots 7 per game, and Patrick Williams shoots 41% from 3. Kelly Oubre shoots 31%, and Patrick Williams shoots 3.4 threes per game. That's backwards. Don't know what to tell you. But yeah, overall, crazy stuff. All right, it is 12:30 though. I'm going to call it here. Want to say thank you guys for hanging out with me tonight. I know we kind of got into some pretty serious topic, especially when we talk about Ja Morant. But I do appreciate you guys hanging out with me tonight. Big Bulls win. And I'm happy to see this Bulls win. Just see Zach played well. P. Will played well. I don't think it's leading to anywhere, but it's just good to see the guys attack the paint. So hopefully moving forward, whatever the team looks like in the future, we attack the paint heavily, right? And not be settling for mid-range shots. But yeah, I think that's something that I'm just going to take that as a positive and hopefully move forward with it. There's not a shot that's not a good shot for Kelly Oubre, apparently. That's Kelly Oubre. I think Patrick doesn't want to be the guy when DeMar, Zach are on the floor. Maybe, but I question with Patrick Williams right now. If he is given the opportunity to be the guy, right? I seriously question if he's going to be able to, one, obviously handle the load, but two, how are you going to get those efficient shots, right? Are you just going to be settling for mid-range? Are you just going to be settling for post-ups, right? That's going to be my concern with Patrick Williams. So if he's the guy and the defense is all zoned in on him, how do you get those efficient shots that we want from you? That's going to be the big step for him if he ever gets more responsibility on offense. So that's what I'm going to keep in mind moving forward. Zach in a serious All-Star form from after the All-Star break. What being healthy could do to him, man. Yeah, Zach has not missed a game for a long time. I hope that he doesn't miss a game for the rest of the season. But Zach has been healthy and he's playing well. So yeah, health is obviously a big thing. But yeah, it's good to see Zach playing very well. Again, if it's just for trade value or just for keep for next season, I don't truly care. Just you want Zach to play well. And honestly, I would like to see DeMar DeRozan play well too, so that we could then trade him. But who knows? Maybe it's good that he isn't playing well, because then that means we probably look to move him. But yeah. But pretty good Bulls win. Bulls take on Houston on, I don't know, the 11th. I don't even know what day that is. I apologize. What day is this? Saturday. So we'll see about a Saturday stream, but I'm probably thinking about it. I'll think about a Saturday stream for you guys. All right. Thank you guys again for hanging out with me tonight. It was a pleasure. Thank you for being such a great community. I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.
you.